Hello, everyone, and welcome back to VectoScalar Tech Talk show. In this episode, today we have an amazing guest, Steve Stimper, who will be talking about and sharing the insight on decoding success ERP implementation. Welcome, Steve, to the VectoScalar Tech Talk show.
Thank you for having me and everything.
Yeah. And audience, I'm sure it will be a great opportunity to have the discussion with Steve today. For audience understanding, let me give you a brief introduction about Steve. Steve has more than 44 years of industry experience. I think that's more than the age of many of the people who will be watching today's show. In ERP solution implementation, he is an associate partner and delivery executive with a focus on SAP Practice, project management for ERP solution implementation, IT infrastructure improvement, PCI and SOX compliance, and business transformation projects. He has previously worked with large organizations like IBM, SAP, Entity Data Americas, United States Air Force, New Millennia, Intelligroup, Reed Business Consulting Group. Reed, that has been a long journey. How do you feel when you talk to people who are lesser? Your experience is more than their age.
Until you just said all of that, I didn't realize it was 44 years. I tell you, it just goes by so fast. I've seen a lot of improvements. My very first implementation with SAP was way back in '92 on R3.1, and to see where this has come from now, all the way up to S4, it I've seen a lot of exciting things, met a lot of wonderful people, and as good as SAP or Oracle is, it's always the people behind it doing the work that surprises me.
That's great. And in this long journey, people there some people might be new to ERP implementation. So for their fundamental understanding, could you all let us know the basic feature that an ERP solution include?
The basic thing is how do you get out of a siloed environment, meaning finance does their stuff, manufacturing does their things, warehouse does theirs. And an ERP system is just that highway that connects everybody together so they're talking the same language and they know where their work is coming from and where it goes. So that's the basic premise of an ERP.
Okay, but still, one, as I understand, as you mentioned, it's an highway where it is connecting all other systems. Having said that, are there any two or three fundamental features that are supposed to be there in an ERP implementation?
Oh, most definitely. And that's the hard part. Okay. Configuring any ERP system, whether it's SAP, Oracle, Bond, JD Edwards, Success Factors, you name them, configuring and developing in that's the easy part. And because I grew up a long time ago in ERP, back in the early 90s, there was a gentleman by the name of Michael Hammer. And what he talked about was how do you do the soft stuff? And the soft stuff is around how do you get that finance person to understand what the warehouse person does? So, because they're going to share different data, or really it's the same data, but they call it two different things today. And then
Yeah.
how do they merge that so that they understand it? And that's the one thing that I've found out over 44 years. It's all about communications and how do you get two people from two different areas to talk the same language. So to
Okay.
me, the soft stuff is the hard stuff.
I think that's a beautiful explanation of ERP implementation, that how to make other people understand. So from that perspective, it does not seems like just a software solution. It seems like more of a business solution where we are
Yes.
focusing that how one department understand the other departments, and probably the terminologies might be slightly different, the way they use the terminologies. Now to understand others data and others processes, that's an interesting part. So but as you have worked in quite a large organizations, and when we hear the word ERP, we also see probably it's a thing of large organization. So is there any particular benchmark where have you seen that minimum this size of organization usually have ERP implementation?
They Most companies will break it up. You'll have a small to mid-sized company. Those are usually companies that are under, say, $10, $12 million. Okay. Then you have a mid-sized company, and from them, that ranges anywhere from like maybe 50 million to a billion. And then anything over a billion, they consider it a larger complex. One of the largest ones I ever did was 25, 30 years ago for Owens Corning. That one was a $750 million project. But the smallest project I ever did, I did it for one person. One
Oh,
person. He was starting a manufacturing of wafers out in San Jose, California. He hadn't even built his building. He hadn't hired any of his staff, but he knew he wanted to do an ERP. So we had more consultants on the ground than him. So he told us everything, and it was really amazing to do a project for one person. So
that's quite an
ERP will work
interesting
for
thing.
any. Yep.
Yeah. I think I also had this myth while being in IT industry for more than a decade that yeah, ERP is only for large organization, but as you just mentioned that there might be small organization as well, or
Mhm.
small organization as small as one person company in the
Yep.
current stage who might be interested in implementing the ERP solution.
Yep.
So, what are the typical challenges? Because you must have delivered many large to small ERP implementation. What are the key challenges that you face or have faced in such large ERP implementations?
I would say one of the biggest challenges is if you're implementing ERP for someone that's had a legacy system, is to get them to understand what the ERP is going to do for them. How is it going to drive benefit and value to the future and long term? A lot of people have a tendency, because they're experts on a legacy system, they have all of the knowledge, and people come to them for the answers and things, is to get them out of the mindset. Because the day you go live with the new ERP system, everybody's kind of on the same playing field. There is no more experts. So you might take someone that wasn't an expert in the legacy system, but they got a hold and they took advantage of learning. Now all of a sudden they become the new expert. So it's a lot of dealing with expectations, getting the right people to talk and to understand the system is there to help the company increase and grow in the future. So again, it's part of that soft stuff that I was talking about.
Okay, so it's more one is about handling the legacy system, that what is the
Yep.
existing infrastructure, and as we initially discussed that ERP is not just software implementation, it is a
Yep.
business solution. So they need to transform the organization for the new deployment. So that definitely seems like a challenge, transforming the organization. And second, also the expectation, like how you are handling your experts and people who are managing the system. And
Yes.
so people who will be watching this show, in case you are having any question, you can always type in the chat box below, and I'll take those questions slowly and gradually to Steve. So Steve, people who are doing such large implementation, ERP implementation, what's your suggestion? How they can get over these challenges? What has worked for you so that they can use your wealth of knowledge to improve their project deployment?
What I always tell companies is when you start to think about doing any ERP, and there's a lot of them out there, I would say the majority of my experience is with SAP. You need to sit down as a leadership group, talking to your uh, department heads and things like that, and truly understand going to a new ERP or upgrading to a new ERP. What is the benefits? What are you going to get from that? Make sure that you look at all of the things that are out there. Don't just pick up something because a certain vendor is offering it for free. You know, whether it's an EDI or BTP or some type of an AI component. Just because somebody is offering you something for free doesn't mean that it's right. Truly look at what your business needs are and start to plan that out. And I always equate it to everybody goes to buy a car
Yep.
or a house. You don't just buy the cheap one. Oh, there we go. You don't just buy the first one that you come across. You do your research. You say, okay, what do I need a car for? Is it for just 2 people or is it for 6 people? What type of size of house? So you do your research and you understand what it is, and then you go and fit that into your budget. And that's what most companies fail to do. They just say, I got to go to an ERP package, and they skip looking at the benefits that package is going to give them. So one of the things I tell people is, if you're looking at doing an ERP package and you've got a year to do it, you should start at least a year before that, so that you can make sure that you have your expectations and the benefits that you're going to get from that built in before you ever start the project.
Okay.
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 Can
So
you hear me?
yes. Yes, I can. And there was some audio lag in between, but I think
Okay.
I heard you a lot. Uh, as you covered about that, we should have the expectation
Yep.
of the system, that what is required from the system, the output, that should be first kept in mind instead of just choosing and implementing a software project. So the clarity of the business requirement should be the first priority for the person before doing any implementation. Yeah. I have a question in between. I would like to take up that question. So I have a question from Nilesh, who is asking that what do you think is going to be the role of AI ML in ERP implementation? Because nowadays artificial intelligence and machine learning is being talk of the town in every technical project.
I have a feeling that right now you're just seeing the beginning of AI and ML. Okay. I think that within probably the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see it grow exponentially. That everybody is on this train now with AI. They want it for one, their call centers. Two, they want to be able to enhance this. They're wanting to use it for helping training their employees, whether they're working in a system or if it's just whatever. You also see it right now with a lot of healthcare. If you're calling in and checking on your health benefits and things like that, chances are you're actually talking to an AI person. The one thing with this, and this is what I do not want to frighten people, because a lot of people think, oh, my company's going to AI or they're going to machine learning and I'm not going to have a job. Okay. There's a great book that I used to read when I was a little kid, long time ago, 2 days before dirt was invented. But there's a book out there from Dr. Seuss. It's called One Fish, Two Fish, Three Fish. And it's about a little boy. He gets a fish and he feeds it, and his parents tell him, don't feed him too much or it'll grow, grow, grow. Well, by the end of the book, the fish is so big they have to release it into the ocean. And that's the same way it is with AI and machine learning. It just to say I got MI and machine learning, somebody has to teach that machine every day. So to me, there's different skill sets that go along with this. So you have someone that does the coding, but then you have to have all of this knowledge and information that you're feeding that machine to be able to answer the questions that come up. And it's the answers for how somebody would ask a question 10 different ways, and you have to be able to answer that, or to at least receive the question, disseminate what is the question being asked, and then provide the right answer. So to me, it's here to stay. It's going to be large, but to me, it's
Yes.
going to change a lot of the landscape of how people are doing things.
Yeah.
And it's going to
Yeah.
be a lot of
Thanks
work
for
for people that needs to feed these animals.
Yes, thanks for answering. Probably you answered the both aspect of whenever we have AI ML question, that definitely the technology is going to be used, and most of the support system has already
Yep.
been taken over by the AI ML solutioning. Having said that, some professionals are having that apprehension that we might lose our job. So definitely they need to reinvent their profile, as you just mentioned, because the role of a skilled workforce will always be there. You will need someone to handle that kind of system. So probably 50, 60 years ago, when IT system software or computer system were implemented, people might have the same apprehension that, okay, when the laptop will come, it will make them unusable, or probably company may fire them. But you need engineers, you need people who can manage those computer systems. So same way, there will be the need of the people who will be managing that system. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for answering the question. And thanks, Nilesh, for your question. I hope it is answered. I'll move to the next question, which is coming from Chavi Singhal. Hello, Steve. Amazing to see you. Feel proud to have an opportunity to work closely with you. When the client decide whom to go for ERP implementation, what are their key deciding factors?
Again, I think you have to come back to that's a business need. What is their burning desire for moving off of their current platform? Is it that they need to get rid of some of the support costs that they have? Is it they just want to go to the next version, or is this the latest and greatest stuff out there? I think every company has to be able to look at this, and they have to decide, I'm about to spend X million dollars to do this. Why do I need to do it? And whenever I'm on a project, I always tell customers, I'm going to spend your money like it's my money. And I'm pretty tight. I don't just spend money to spend it. So I get them, or I try to get them to think in the mindset of really think about why you're wanting to do this before you ever do it. Because once you start that road, there's no going back. So again, it's thinking about what you're wanting to do before you do it, and make sure you can justify it.
Okay. Thanks for answering that. And Chavi, thanks for asking your question. I hope your question is answered. And I can see that, Steve, in all your answer, we are talking about the fundamental. And I think that's the role of wisdom, that these are the things which are always going to remain. The technology might change and other things might change, but these are the things which are going to remain there. I have your next question for you, that you have a vast experience with SAP. So what is unique about SAP that helped the growth of SAP the way it has reached? So what do you think? What are the key factors compared to other ERP players that SAP has, which is giving
Say that
its
again?
edge? Yeah. So you have a vast experience with SAP implementation. So what are the advantages of SAP over other ERP implementation?
From my standpoint,
Yeah, your experience and understanding.
yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So from me, to me, SAP has been around for a long time. A lot of people
Yeah.
just is now starting to hear about it, but SAP has been around for 50 years. They started back, and the beauty of SAP is so many companies use it. Okay, it's the world's largest software manufacturer, and they're in the Fortune. I think there's 998 of the Fortune 1000 companies run SAP, so it has this huge footprint, and everybody does it different. And because of that, so many other smaller companies, whether you're talking about MES or Bartender or any other kind of satellite solution that does a specific thing, things that they call best in breed, they connect to SAP very easy, very quickly. And then it allows for the ecosystem to continue to grow. So that's why I'm very passionate with SAP. It's just that it's created its own ecosystem. And I can sit here and tell you the whole story about the 5 gentlemen that created SAP. They actually worked for IBM back in the 60s, and IBM said, this will never work, you'll never sell it. They left IBM, they bought the package from IBM, and then today, 52 years later, you actually see SAP being this huge package. So that, to me, that's also a success story. When somebody tells you you can't do something, prove them wrong. So that's one of the reasons I like SAP so much.
Okay, that's an interesting point, that on one side you covered about their software best practice, which is to have a ecosystem. It's not just a software, it's building an ecosystem where even other players can immediately connect. That's one side. But on the other side, you also talked about the entrepreneurial spirit behind the company. And probably that's the DNA that is going to carry forward, that always have that nature, that if you believe in something, just go and implement it. Don't look for the and don't wait for the bottlenecks, and just do it.
Yep.
Okay, thanks
That's
for answering that question. Yeah, I see another question coming from Bhavna Mia. How do you ensure the scalability and flexibility of an ERP system to accommodate future business growth?
And that's the beauty of SAP. You can start with SAP with a very small footprint. Okay. And you can actually do this with any ERP. You start with a small footprint. Maybe I want what I need right now is to get my financials under control. I need to have one place to where I can see what my revenue is, what my cost of doing business is, and everything. And you have it in one place. And then once you get that stable and you know that it's correct, now you might want to decide, okay, let me bring in the manufacturing side so that now I can start to control my cost there and look at items. And then later on, I'll bring in how I do my sales and distribution. That's the beauty of ERP. You can start small and then grow big. If you're a large size company, that are in that Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 range, they always start big because they're such a large customer, large
Yes.
company anyway, and the problem is how to scale back down. So it's easier to go smaller to larger than it is from larger to smaller. Okay, that kind of answer your question there?
Yeah, I think that answers the question, and that's the beauty of SAP that you have been saying from the beginning, that it has a very scalable architecture. The architecture is that one start with one particular module, and soon, as per the requirement, they can start implementing other modules. So thanks, Bhavna. Thanks for asking your question. Yeah.
And I would also add this: it's not just SAP, Oracle, SuccessFactors. All of them learned from SAP over the last 50 years that you have to be flexible. You have to be able to scale to the customer's needs. So not only is SAP manufactures of software, they're also a teacher for the industry. People learn from the mistakes that SAP has done. So that's one of the other things that I like about SAP as well. They're a teacher too.
Yeah, they are teacher too. I think that's a great thing. That itself is a great compliment for the company. So as you just started talking about the other key players beside SAP, what are the other key players in the market delivering the ERP solution? And
Well, right now you have Oracle, you have SuccessFactors, you have Bond that's still out there. You have a little piece of JD Edwards. You still have a number of players, and then it really depends on the market that you're at too. So if you go down into the smaller size companies, you have Intuit, you have QuickBooks and everything. And I don't know how many people are on the call, but if you remember back in the early 2000s when QuickBooks came out, it was really just an Excel spreadsheet that you just put in your expenses and things like that. If you go look at QuickBooks today, it doesn't look anything like it did in the early 2000s. It's actually have grown up. It will connect a lot of your financials to it, and it works great for those companies that are under $1 million or $5 million. And I would say sometimes they actually have simplified some of the processes to where the larger companies haven't gotten there. So there's a lot of different ones out there, and it gets back to the first thing that I said. You have to understand the need of why you're wanting to go to an ERP package. Once you understand that need, now you start looking for which package you should look to do. And I'm a firm believer, you don't go out and get a great big huge package like an SAP or an Oracle or a PeopleSoft if all you're needing to do is just a small part of your financials. So that's where that comes from.
okay, thanks for sharing that insight. My next question is that does SAP offer a solution, like for example there is a very small organization and they just want to buy one license and do that? Because in earlier days it was mostly a big system that you have to install and implement the full system. So how's the cloud implementation of SAP, and can they have a one user license, two user license, those kind of options available?
Yeah, it probably not so much today, because with the cloud investment, there, I would say the small company today that would be on SAP would probably be somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 users. because everything in the cloud, it's all subscription based. You have the SaaS offerings that they do. So a lot of the things that they do, they actually maintain. So if you're probably less than 15, 2000, I don't think the financial side would be there to support that.
Okay.
So that's where you would start looking at some of the second tier ERPs. So
Okay. 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 And now let's talk about the how one can develop the skills and traits for ERP implementation. So if someone new is in entering into the market or in the industry, how they can learn the skills of ERP implementation? What's your best suggestion for these people?
one of your gentlemen or ladies asked the question about AI and ML, machine
Yeah.
learning. There's so many tools out there. It's funny. It's like when I was growing up, even back when I was a teenager or just starting in the military and things. If I needed to learn how to do a certain thing, I had to go to the library, I had to pick out a book, check it out, and go home, read it, and then do it. Today, YouTube. Oh my gosh, I wished I had YouTube 50 years ago when I was growing up. I'd be smarter than what I am today, you know. But just learn, have that hunger to learn, and then go and find a user group that's in your area, whether it's SAP, Oracle, or whatever. Get yourself attached to a coach or a mentor in an area that you're at, whether you're going to do basis work, functional work, technical work, whatever it is. Find you a coach, a mentor, and pick their brains. Okay. Go out, do your research, become hungry. And when you get that hunger inside of you, before you know it, 44 years goes by and you're like, damn, where did it go? So that's what you're looking for. Start that fire inside of your belly, learn as much as you possibly can, and just keep moving forward. And that fire will keep feeding you, and it will keep moving you to learn more and more and more. And the more you learn, the more you're going to want to take on as responsibilities. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if AI comes or if machine learning comes, you have that drive inside of you to say, okay, it's just a change. I can accept change and I'm going to move forward with it.
Yeah, I think that's the success mantra for success at any age or at any point of time. That if we can
Yeah.
ignite that hunger for learning, that we want to learn something and we want to do it to the best of our knowledge, find a mentor and coach, as you just mentioned, who can guide you and saves years of times by not committing the mistakes, the common mistake that other might be doing, and then have that sense of responsibility and ownership. That okay, if I'm having that solutioning mindset, when I've interviewed leaders, I've seen that probably the most underestimated word is problem solving, that problems will always be there in the system. So one a person is having that nature of problem solving, they can achieve any height and achieve anything. I think that's a lot. Thanks, Steve, for sharing your valuable time with our audience and answering all their questions. Any last message for the audience, that what they can do to grow further in their life, before we close today's VectoScalar Tech Talk session? And for the audience, you should follow Steve on LinkedIn. His connection LinkedIn URL is shown in the message below. Yeah, Steve, before closing, any last message for the audience?
I'll leave your audience with the one tip my grandmother used to give me when I was a little boy coming home from school. She'd always ask me, "What did you learn today?" And I go, "I don't know. I learned 1 + 1." She goes, "Okay." She goes, "If you're not learning something every day, it's a wasted day. Somebody gave you today, be respectful for that day. Learn something new that day. Make yourself better than you were yesterday, and you'll have no problems throughout life. You'll know how to do it." Okay. So
Okay, thanks Steve for sharing that part. And I think that's a very profound statement, and as you just talked that your grandmother gave you this input, that itself talk a lot about that having this fundamental is eternal. It will not change with technology or lifetime. These are going to be there. So audience, do and follow this mantra, which is, what did you learn today? You can type in the comment box below, what did you learn today, what were your key insights. You can tag Steve in your post. And with that, let's close today's VectoScalar Tech Talk. We'll come again next week with another amazing speaker like Steve. Thanks, Steve. Thanks again for being on VectoScalar Tech Talk show. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.